This is about the time where I say we study through books of the Bible here at the Village Chapel. And of course, on Christmas Eve, we're going to focus in on this story that Kim has read for us already from Luke chapter 2. We spent 4 weeks leading up to Christmas what in many church traditions is called Advent, or the Advent season. And the word Advent means arrival. So as Christians, we look back on the first arrival of Jesus, the first Advent, his first appearing, if you will. And we also look forward to his second appearing. And we're of the mind that this Bible that we study, that we give so much attention to, assures us that our past, our present, our future all matter to God. These central events and tenets of the Christian faith provide us with great assurance and peace to all believers as we rest in God's initiating love toward us. This is what he has done in entering space-time history, coming to be one of us. So with Augustine of Hippo, we can say that we can trust the past to God's mercy, the present to God's love, and the future to God's providence. So I want to say happy Christmas Eve, of course. That's very important to say that. And we're so glad that you're here and that we could worship together and focus in on the Lord. I'm going to tonight seek to persuade you that this one that we talk about that's come, this person, Jesus Christ, is, according to the Bible's redemption story, the narrative of the Scripture, all the way from Old Testament through New Testament, given us great cause for great hope, great news has been proclaimed to us. And so I'll give you, as I do sometimes, the outline in advance. So those of you who maybe you had a little too much to eat for dinner, you're a little sleepy, you nod off a little bit, here's the nuggets, man. This is what we're going to talk about for the next 10 minutes or so. Wonder has been restored because of the advent of Christ. He has come and wonder has been restored. Worship has been revived and witness has been redeemed. What do we mean by these three things? Just a few comments on each, if you don't mind, if you'll permit me. Mary treasured and pondered. As Kim read the story, you may have noticed that. Here's a teenager treasuring and pondering. I think that's awesome. When I was a teenager, I didn't treasure much, ponder much, and I just didn't have an attention span for it, and I barely have one now for it. But I'm impressed by this young lady, and I'm impressed by the fact that she treasured and pondered all these things. Not just that she was a deep thinker and all this, but what she treasured and pondered about was all that had happened, all that God had taken the initiative and done in her life. The shepherds also, God gave them cause to wonder, and we were even told as the angels appear on the horizon of the sky, and they're singing glory to God in the highest. The shepherds run, don't walk, but run to Bethlehem to see if this thing is true, and to see for themselves, to investigate a little bit more. And they get there, they tell everybody who's standing around the manger already there. They tell all of them what the angels had told to them. Mary and Joseph probably hadn't heard from angels for 9 months or so. And this might have been great encouragement to them along after 9 months of, is this really what's happening? I don't really understand all of it, because it made no sense. And surely if there's something that would cause us to wonder, it's a virgin that gets pregnant. You know, is that just a myth? Is it just a fairy tale? Or is it history? Is it a bit of something that God actually did in history? The wonder is surprise mingled with admiration caused by an encounter with something beautiful, something mysterious, something unexpected, and something that's often inexplicable. You just can't come up with an answer to it. It's just that mysterious. We just have to sort of stand there in awe of what God has done. And that's the story of God's redemption throughout the Bible. It's God taking the initiative to call out for himself a people that he can call his own, to draw to himself a people he can call his own. And that ought to fill us with wonder, even the most jaded of us among us that get a little callous this time of year. And sometimes when that happens to me, I just take a moment and pause. What is it that I'm wondering at? Because sometimes that tells me the source of my callousness or my cynicism, or why I've grown, it's all kind of grown old for me, and there's no sort of wonder of joy or peace of joy, of wonder, you know. These themes, these candles over here, these Advent candles, the Advent wreath, there's a candle for hope, peace, love, and joy. To me, all four of them are sort of the recipe for the composition of wonder, this holy wonder that he has come. And I think with the advent of Christ, I think it's pretty obvious that we were all designed for wonder, that we long for something more than we can see around us, something more than we can control, something beyond us. I think even people that aren't believers, people who just give some thought to it, have expressed this over the years. Here's a little bit of a lengthy quote from one such person. The most beautiful emotion we can experience is mysterious. Goes on to say, it is the fundamental emotion that stands at the cradle of all true art and science. He to whom this emotion is a stranger, who can no longer wonder and stand wrapped in awe, is as good as dead, a snuffed out candle. And I think of that when I look at these little Advent candles and what God has done, how he's taken the initiative to break into space-time history, to fill us with wonder as we consider the love, joy, the peace, and the hope that he's brought in the person and work of Christ. Albert Einstein goes on to say, to sense that behind anything that can be experienced, there's something that our minds cannot grasp, whose beauty and sublimity reaches us only indirectly. This is religiousness in this sense, and in this sense only. I am a devoutly religious man. I have no idea of the development or nature of his faith or his theology or any of that sort of thing. I just know that he, in this statement anyway, is recognizing what I think almost anybody might be able to recognize, and that's that each and every person has some sense of the numinous, some sense that there's something more than just their own lives and more than they can empirically prove. We believe in so much more than we can empirically prove, don't we? Do you believe in hope? Do you believe in courage? Do you believe in love itself? There's so much that we have come to believe in that is really just about this immaterial world that does exist all around us, that we have some sense of. In the birth narrative that Kim read, a virgin was with child. That bold biological claim makes this a historically unique event. The King of Kings, the creator, sustainer, ruler of everything, was motivated by his great love for sinners, such as we are. Why would there be that kind of love? Why would he love us? I don't understand that. I think that's a great mystery. God did something about it himself. He came to save his people from their sins. Jesus' name even means God is salvation. So let's say we do believe in the existence of God. Let's say he did want to save. Why didn't he just send an angel? Why did he come himself? That's a great mystery. That's a wonderful truth of the Christian faith. God didn't simply send an angel. He became one of us. God has brought all four Advent themes together. This perfect love of God, this inexhaustible joy of Christ, the real possibility of peace on earth because darkened human hearts can actually be transformed and saved. And through the hope of all the world, Jesus Christ himself, we can have peace with God and know the peace of God. In Christ, whom the Bible calls the light of the world, darkness can be dispelled. It can be pushed back because the light of the world has come in the person of Jesus. With the arrival of Jesus into the world, wonder has been restored. Worship has also been revived. That means it's been brought back to life. We have spent a lot of time, humanity has, worshiping a lot of things that are not God. And it has left us wanting. We find that we worship money, sex, or power, and we find that the more we worship those things, the less content we are, the more our life feels vacuous. And even though some aspects of those things may be good in the proper use and proper place, nonetheless, they were never meant by God to become the center of who we are or the center of our lives. Our worship needs to be revived, and God comes along to do just that. The Bible claims that human beings, all human beings, were created with the capacity for wonder and with the inevitability of worship. You were created with the capacity, yes, to wonder, but the inevitability is that you are a worshiper, whether you know it or not, whether you admit it or not, you're worshiping something. It might be yourself, it might be your job, it might be the next hope of opportunity, whatever it might be your children, might be your parents, might be this political system that you've put faith in, or whatever it might be. You could put a million things in the middle that were never meant to be the center. Here comes Jesus back into the world. Not only has wonder been restored, but our worship can be revived. You're a worshiper, I'm a worshiper. David Foster Wallace, who wasn't a believer, again, another person who wasn't a believer, but a brilliant American novelist, short story writer, essayist. He said, there's no such thing as not worshiping. Everybody worships. The only choice we get is what to worship. Very honest of him to say that. This is a guy that asked some of the very big questions of life and unfortunately ended up coming up with some of the wrong answers. But on this one, I think I really agree with him, and he got it right. He took his own life in 2008. There have been many other bright thinkers who have asked deeper questions of life and come up with wrong answers as well. Where did everything come from? Why are we here? What's the meaning and purpose of life? Can we know the difference between right and wrong? Is there really any ultimate destiny? Where are we headed? Is there life after this life? Can we have any kind of hope of heaven or an after life? The Bible teaches us that when God designed and created the human person, God put eternity in our hearts, that we would always have an insatiable desire to connect with Him, with our Creator. He put eternity in our hearts. That means anything finite is going to fail us. Nothing that's finite could ever satisfy us. Only the eternal and infinite God Himself, only a relationship with Him would ever be that kind of satisfaction that we're looking for. C.S. Lewis said it beautifully. Some of you are familiar with this quote. The books or the music in which we thought the beauty was located will betray us if we trust to them. It was not in them. It only comes through them. And what came through them was longing. Beautiful word. These things, the beauty, the memory of our own past, are good images of what we really desire. But if they're mistaken for the thing itself, they turn into dumb idols, breaking the hearts of their worshipers. For they are not the thing itself. They are only the scent of a flower we have not found, the echo of a tune we have not heard, news from a country we have not visited. Do you have some kind of chronic sense of distance, separation from God, from your Creator, from any understanding of the meaning and purpose to life? I'm here to tell you that Jesus Christ has come to restore your sense of wonder about life itself and about a possible relationship with the God who made you. And He's also come to completely revive your worship, to bring it back to life, to redirect or refocus it so that it's on Him. You say, how can I do that? I'm mad at God for what's happened in my life. I'm angry with God. I don't really want to believe in God until I can get all my questions answered. Listen, if you're waiting for all your questions to be answered, get to the back of the line, man. I mean, that's a long line. My last name's Thomas. I've got doubts as well. But doubt isn't always a sign that you should just constantly resist and belligerently resist God's call if He's calling you. Doubt may be a sign that you're just asking questions that you need to ask, that you're just thinking. And that's not a bad thing. But at some point, don't allow your honest questions, your honest doubts to turn into willful unbelief or belligerent unbelief. If you sense Him calling to you or calling your name this Advent season, let me encourage you. Respond to Him. There are these three reasons, and I've got to get to the third one. Our witness has been redeemed. Wonder has been restored. Worship been revived. But our witness has been, what's that about? Well, I hear a lot of people in our world say, I'm a pastor. I get on an airplane, people find out I'm a pastor. They either shut up and don't want to talk or stop cussing or something like that they've been doing. They find that, I didn't mean to say that, whatever. Or sometimes, occasionally, they actually ask a question. And they want to know, well, what do you think about this or that or whatever it might be? And sometimes I'm drawn into a conversation about God, and I'm always glad that my witness has been redeemed, that my story that I want to tell them is not good advice that they need to follow, or rules, religious rules that they need to adhere to. See, the Christian gospel and the whole point of his coming was that he would do for us what we can't do for ourselves. So the Christian faith is a gospel. That means it's good news. It's not just good advice on how to live your life and how to be a better you and how to, clean up your act or whatever. No, the gospel is so much more than that. It's good news about what Christ has done. And the call to us is that we would believe, we would trust, we would hope in him, and then we would go out into the world, and yes, our witness would be completely turned inside out, redeemed, brought back to what it needs to be. Our witness is about what Christ has done. Our witness is not how to be a good little village chapelite. It's not about how to be a good southerner. Our witness is when we proclaim the good news about what Christ has done and how he's radically changed us, how he's turned our wonder, he's restored it, turned it inside out, redirected our worship, and redeemed our testimony. I think those are all really beautiful things. When church gathers, we gather at the Village Chapel, we seek to worship the living God, and we hope that we would be reminded of what is true, that we would be persuaded about what is good, and that we would be moved or inspired by what is beautiful. The gospel does all three of those things. The gospel is the truth about what Christ has done when he came into the world. When he didn't send an angel, he came himself. And that he came to lay down his life so that he might redeem us, that he might save us, sinners such as we are. And this is really good news. And it's really beautiful news. I call that being drawn into wonder or real worship. So the gospel of Jesus does all three of those. It's the true, it's the good, it's the beautiful. And I certainly want to commend it to you here tonight. We're not here to promote mere religion or behavior modification. We're here simply to give the world more good news, and I think it's really timely that we can do that. The truth is, as Sinclair Ferguson says, Christmas is not coming, it has already come. The Word already has been made flesh. He already has lived, bled, died, and risen again for us. Now, all that remains is to receive him. For Jesus Christ himself is the meaning of Christmas. Let's never forget that. I need to be reminded of it over and over and over. I'm 62 years old. Became a believer when I was 5. So I don't know how many times I've heard this story, but I just need to keep hearing it over and over again. I keep falling back into the I gotta do this to earn God's love motif. Maybe you do as well. But let's live in the light of his grace and mercy on offer to us through the person and work of Jesus Christ, the Son of God, born so long ago into a dark world, the light of the world, come to dispel our darkness. He did it so beautifully and continues to do it today. Happy Christmas Eve, everyone.